There we go, everybody. Welcome to Fairly Normal with Josh Wolf. I'm here with the very handsome,
Thank you.
incredibly in shape,
Yeah, youthful,
youthful,
tight-skinned,
vibrant,
supple, jungle cat-like,
Bryan Callen.
intense.
Intense.
I wasn't done with adjectives, but
Oh,
okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the intensity it seeps out of your eyes.
We're looking for a young Bryan Callen.
Did I tell you that my agent called me because they were looking for a Josh Wolf type and said, "Do you want to go in on this?" I was like, yeah.
I feel like you and I are kind of at the same level,
Yeah.
fame-wise, in terms of just like always kind of not famous, but just sort of like I always say, I'm the sometimes working actor. I do small parts in big films sometimes.
Yeah, and you know what else? Like, why are we at the Josh Wolf type spot when we were never at the Josh Wolf spot? Do you know what I mean? Like,
I do.
You skipped over the spot where I was getting those roles,
Yeah.
and now you're just going for my type?
Well, unfortunately, if I died, people would go, "Oh, that guy. Oh, yeah. Pass the salt, would you?"
You know what? You are that guy.
Yeah.
When I said to my wife, I was like, "Bryan Callen's coming over." She's like, "Bryan Callen?" I go, "Let me pull a picture." She goes, "Oh, that guy." And I was like, "Yeah."
You know what? I'll take it.
Yeah, dude.
I'll
why
take
not?
it. I'm making a living.
How long have you been in
20 years.
20 years. From where?
Really more. From New York.
So 20 years. And
I've
so
been making money for 20 years, which is not bad.
You've had-
some years good. Most years good, though. Most years, I mean,
was
not
the
not
last year you had a
millions.
job.
25 years ago. 24, 20, yeah, something like that.
And
Long
up until then, were you making, like, when did you make money? You start making money doing stand-up?
Not until, it was probably 8 years ago. So before that, it was all acting.
Right. You did
And I got
every
deals.
pilot. Every time I would, because
Yeah.
look, stand-up is in a boom right now.
Yeah.
You can make money doing stand-up.
Yes.
Right now. So when we were auditioning for pilots, it wasn't so.
Well, I often feel as though I say to myself, I wish I'd started doing the road when Rogan and Bill Burr and those guys had done it, because we're all the same age. But, I worked so hard at acting, and I really tried so hard, and I really tried to be what I wanted to be as an actor.
Yeah.
And I realized, looking back on it, that part of it was I choked. Because I wanted it so badly a lot of the time when the big parts would come up. So I failed in that regard. But I did work a lot too. And I think, but the other issue was that I was more in love with making people laugh on a set than actually doing the acting. And frankly, if I'm really honest with myself and I look back at all the jobs I've ever done, I don't think I ever showed up on set and didn't want it to end. I was always and continue to always look forward to when we're done. Acting on film is so repetitious.
What you're saying is you tried like hell to get the role, but when you got the role, you were like, when is this over?
That's right. And that's not good. Bradley Cooper, as an example, absolutely loves every detail of acting, from how it's shot to what your belt's doing, all that stuff.
Yeah. What, your
know?
belt?
Yeah. When I did The Hangover, he said, "Dude, have your belt undone. Like, maybe you finished taking a pee and come out." Like, he gave me a bunch of things to do.
He gave you a belt note?
Yeah, he gave me a bunch of stuff that worked. Like, Bradley will direct you while you're acting because he's so invested in the film and he loves acting. And so he just wants to help you. He wants to make you look good. I hate to say it, but he's a great guy. I hate him.
Handsome, a gazillionaire.
And he speaks fluent French.
He does.
He can
and my
go
wife
fuck
just
himself.
walked in. You see my wife?
Hi.
Hi, that's
Your
Brian.
wife is a dime piece.
Yeah, she's pretty good looking,
What a
right?
smoke show, huh?
I know, not terrible.
That's what happens when you look. You're a cutie pie with a good personality, and
Thanks,
you get
buddy.
that.
Yeah, I know. It's not
Fantastic.
terrible, right?
Congratulations on
Yeah.
your cheekbones.
Yeah, I know, right? They're pretty good.
She's a hot brunette. Mm-hmm. Well done.
I've
madam,
done pretty
and
well.
Well done to you.
Roofies.
Roofies is what it's
That's
about.
the only way. You know how I lured her in, right?
No. Well, you're funny.
Well, I lured her in with being the single dad. I was dangling the 3 kids.
Of course.
The first phone call I had with her, I was making dinner for the kids by myself. So in what she always says, the line that I liked, that she loved, she fell in love with, was me saying to my daughter, "Hey, Caitlin, what do you want on your turkey burgers, baby?" And she was like, hooked.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, I hooked her with turkey burgers, buddy.
Amazing, dude.
Who knew it was that easy?
Women.
Let me tell you something. we wasted so many years trying to come up with these crazy lines.
I know.
You just gotta pretend like you're cooking turkey burgers.
They did an interesting study on men. They did an interesting study on men. They showed men. It had nothing to do with level. They want to see how good a father a man would make, and some men would leave. What is it? What is the factor of some men leave and they're not as attentive as fathers?
Mm-hmm.
And what? How do you find a man who's a good father and more attentive and is there? And they did an interesting experiment where they showed men a pornographic film, actually a woman dancing naked.
Okay.
And the men first they showed the men children, pictures of children, and they had them play with some children or something. Then they showed the men...
Not in a Jared Subway.
No. Then they showed the men some hot woman dancing. And the men whose testosterone spiked were the men who were most likely to not be good fathose.
If they spiked when they saw the woman dancing.
Yes. But when the testosterone didn't spike or even stayed the same, those were the ones that made the best fathers. So it had nothing to do with where you start testosterone-wise. It's what the image of a dancing woman does to you and what your testosterone, what your levels are after, that will determine, according to this study.
I don't know if I buy into that.
Well, it's just one study, but it was interesting. I think it was in the Wall Street Journal, The Economist. The Economist did an experiment.
Let me just say, this is why, to me, you are one of the most fascinating guys out there. And if you haven't seen your stand-up, it's ridiculous.
It's silly.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And what I love about you is that you deliver ridiculous lines that cannot be true with extreme confidence.
Yes. I'm a liar.
Yeah, but with such precision and confidence, right? Mm-hmm. So your stand-up is silly. You're an ultra intelligent dude.
I don't know about that.
You're very well read.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm well read in comparison to a lot of people in Los Angeles
and
who
other
are comics.
Yes. Okay, but I would also tell you that you're quoting The Economist. That's probably a small percentage of this country. Mm-hmm. Would you say that?
Probably.
Why do you feel like, and I'll tell you, I kind of do it, not to the same level that you do it. Why do you feel like you dumb yourself down on stage? No, I don't. When we talk about lying, for me, everything I do on stage is true. In fact, and what I mean by that is that if I'm talking about giving myself a butter bath or riding a horse with long hair, and I've kind of moved on from that, but that's all how I want to be. That's ingrained in a great deal of truth. So there's most of my life is spent wishing I were someone else. Right. That's a very different perspective and probably a different mindset. I have another facet to my personality, which is that I think understanding why and how the world works and being politically and philosophically committed to something is very important for a man and frankly for a citizen. And I think because otherwise you become a tool and so part of the problem. I think it's important to know why someone like Donald Trump is damaging. I also think it's important to know why Donald Trump has a point of view. I think it's also important to know where he does add value and where he detracts. And I think it's important, rather than to say I don't like Donald Trump, I think it's better to say I think he does more harm than he does good at this stage. It's kind of like when you speak about being a Republican or Democrat. The problem with coming to a discussion and saying I'm a Republican or I'm a Democrat or I'm left-wing, or I'm right-wing, is that you are immediately fixing yourself as a noun. Yeah, but you know what else with those particular nouns? Yeah. Is that, especially in today's society, if I say Republican... It comes with a bunch of baggage and presuppositions. Yes. Yeah. And when you say Republican, everybody assumes... far right wing conservative. It is an offensive. Yes. Like not a defensive, but an offensive point of view, rather than coming to something as in neutral. It's a little bit like saying I'm a Jew, I'm a Catholic. Yes. When somebody says I'm a Jew or somebody says I'm a Catholic, it comes with a great deal of labels. We immediately say that person must be or could be pro-life and all these things. Right, but there are a ton of people, and I will tell you there's some people in my family who have said, Well, I guess if I had to check a box, it would be Republican because fiscally,
yes,
they're conservative. Socially, they're incredibly liberal,
a
right?
very good point. So this is how exactly, and so this is how I think discussions should be approached. I never say I'm a Republican or a Democrat. What I start with is a question, which is, let's start the discussion this way: to what extent, and let's even talk degrees, do you think the government should have control over the choices you make in your life? It should have some control. We do need some government. The question is, do you want to give 50% of your money to government? Do you want to give 40, 65%? It just depends.
Right.
Bernie Sanders says, if you make a lot of money, you should probably spend, I would imagine he'd be very happy with taxing anybody who makes over $500,000, 70% of their income.
Yes.
He seems to think that works. I disagree with that very much, but I'm not saying that I'm a Republican, because Republicans frankly make it impossible to vote for them, because a lot of these guys are just very, very Christian, and I think that should be a private affair, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
So rather than have these strong opinions and labels, I like discussing, I like saying we have a problem. How do we solve this problem?
But where then, for those of us, and it sounds like you're in that group with me, where since the majority, and I think the majority of us lie somewhere in the middle, why do we let the extremes bully us, right?
It's always been that way, and the answer to that question is probably a deeper question, which is probably because of the way campaigns are financed. Now you're getting into campaign finance reform, which is way too boring for a podcast, but it's only the most important thing we face. I mean, frankly, if you really want to get into it, the real truth is that if you actually care about where this country is headed, we should all have a strong point of view on how campaigns are financed.
100%.
And it takes some investigation and a lot of work. Republic Lost by Lawrence Lessig is a good place to start with that, his book.
So you see now, very well read.
Yeah.
Let me hop on two things that made me think of. First, you mentioned Trump.
Yeah.
And second, I want to get to, it kind of went off in how we're a soundbite society. Like that is basically how people win or lose now.
Yeah.
Right? I would even say when you look at Trump, what's interesting to me isn't the fact that he's winning. It's what is the group that has not felt serviced in this country that are so vocal? Like that's a good question. That's my question is, okay, so clearly there's a big group that has been silent and not serviced apparently for years.
Yes.
Who are they? So, and how do we reach them outside of Trump?
I love that question, because what you're really saying is, see, there's a tendency to say it's just a bunch of white working class males who are voting for Trump. They're dummies. Well, no, they're not dummies. I don't like Trump, but the people that are voting for him are not dummies.
I agree.
A lot of them have a strong point of view and are not dumb. They're angry. They're afraid. They feel voiceless. And so along comes Loudmouth, who's basically the campaign of impulses. That's not my quote. And he comes along and he's an insult machine and all about impulse. And he comes up with these ridiculous things to say, which we would never be able to even implement legally. No. Build a wall around Mexico. Sounds great, Donald. Thanks so much for solving that nuanced problem. And let's not let any Muslims in. I guess we won't let Malaysians, because Malaysians and Indonesians are exactly like Saudi Arabians and Pakistanis. Yeah. Okay. I mean, he's just a firebrand, and we've always had him in American politics. But I think it's important to say, yes, the people in Iowa and the guys you may not know who are farmers or whoever they are have a strong point of view and support Trump. They're not dummies. They have needs that are not being met. Let's figure out what they are and let's have a discussion.
That's my point.
Yeah.
And so my point is, with social media, because we're soundbite, let's take what's happening with Peyton Manning right now as an example.
Yeah.
For some reason, we've decided that it's okay to print something if we're not sure it's true.
Yeah.
Which is, to me, dangerous. And we were also obviously, look, everybody needs ratings. CNN needs ratings. So everybody has an opinion. I don't want my news with personally, for me, I don't want my news with opinion. I want my news with facts.
Objective.
Yeah. But you take what's happening with Peyton Manning right now. The court of public opinion is more important than facts. And
always has been.
Right? Yeah, but right now the court of public opinion is this.
Yeah, sudden.
Right? Look, to me, Twitter is our generation's Salem witch mob, right? Mm-hmm. Because you're basically it's an angry mob, and that angry mob rallies.
Yeah.
And the best example I always give is that you remember that woman a couple years ago on Twitter who got it before she was getting on a plane to Africa. She sent out a tweet that said, "I'm going to Africa. Hope I don't get AIDS. Who am I kidding? I'm white."
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, as a comic, I think
it's funny.
I thought it was a good joke.
Yeah.
And you know what it was? It wasn't racist. It was pointing out the fact that black people do not have the equal, are not on equal ground.
Everybody, though, it was all white people who rushed, liberal white people from the Northeast. Our college campuses in the Northeast, like places like Williams and Amherst and stuff, are just as bad. It's when they
but
killed,
it's the opposite bad.
They killed a woman in Afghanistan, and I watched the video. It's very hard to watch. She was rumored to have burned a Quran. 27-year-old woman. She was actually not. She was calling out some guys for selling condoms and Viagra, and then this fortune teller, quote unquote, said she burned a Quran. Started a rumor. They beat her with stones. She was so bloody that they couldn't even burn her clothing. They lit her on fire. They're just awful. That mob mentality. Everybody wanted to prove how Muslim they were, how much they loved Islam, that they wanted to kill the heretic with their own stones.
Right.
And everybody had to get in there with their own stone. This is let me prove how much Well, we all go, oh my God, that's so horrible. Boy, I tell you what I saw. I saw human beings, and I see that. I'm sorry to say it. It's a tough thing to say, but the same mindset exists in our liberal college
100%.
campuses. We are so intolerant. One person says one quote-unquote offensive thing about a woman or a black person or a white person, and they teach yoga, and that's offending sensibilities, and we want their jobs. They want their jobs, and I can't stand it.
Can I tell you something? We were going to a Christmas party, and it was one of those things where it's a white elephant. So you buy a gift for under $20, you put on, and you pick a number, and everyone gets up, right? So I had we brought our gift, but somebody brought a tumbler where you drop a shot glass into, and it's like a sake bomb, but it is built in, right? And they were so the host goes, "Hey, you can't put that in under the tree." And I won't say which member of my family was like, "Why not?" And they said, "Well, what if somebody's an alcoholic?" And he was like, "Okay." They said, "What if somebody's a recovering alcoholic? You might offend them with that gift."
Yeah.
And I stepped in and I go, "Hey, fuck you.
Fuck you is right.
If that glass offends a recovering then they shouldn't come out of the house."
Exactly.
Go fuck yourself.
You know what? If you're a recovering alcoholic, it's part of what you deal with.
Yes.
That's all.
But go
and
fuck
it's okay.
you. But here's the deal.
Look, in university, it was I can't remember what the university was in Canada. A woman was teaching, I guess, people with disabilities yoga.
Yeah.
And somebody complained that it was offensive to teach yoga because it was it didn't belong to us whites, and it was blah blah blah.
Oh my
and they
God.
canceled the program. So this is There are some neurotic students who are
the Overland one is the worst.
They're the
You saw that they said the cafeteria was racist, right?
Yes, they're the loudest voices.
Yeah.
They're lunatics. They're not real. They don't think for themselves. They're in for a very rude awakening. It's like Christine Summers, who did Joe Rogan's podcast and wrote a book called The War on Boys. She said these people who are majoring in gender studies.
Yeah.
Good luck getting a job. Good luck.
Listen.
Good luck. And fucking gender studies. Oh boy, I'm so
you can't
glad.
say he, she anymore?
No, there are different pronouns now. But good luck. Good luck with getting a job. I know you're so sensitive. It's great that you're studying these things. And I guess the only avenue is to be an academic at the same institution and regurgitate the same ideas that bear no relevance to the outside world.
But here's the thing that gets me is those people who are so anti everything that could be offensive also do not allow people who have an opposite point of view to feel safe to have their point of view.
Look, listen.
That's the crazy thing,
You and
right?
I are like I have never, and I'm telling you, even as a kid, I never thought anybody should be ostracized.
No.
I'm telling you, my nature, I've always felt for men who felt like women. I remember seeing it as a kid. I saw a drag queen when I was, I think, 11, and he was in Switzerland, and I could tell. And I remember feeling badly for him. I wanted him to be protected. I'm the guy, I'm just saying, Bryan Callen, I know you're the same way. I would never in a fucking million years make anybody feel I don't tell gay jokes or anti-gay jokes. I never have.
No.
I don't like it. It doesn't make me feel good. I've never been. I'm not a prejudiced person. Maybe because of the way I grew up. Maybe it's because of my nature. Whatever the case, I never want to hurt anybody's feelings, and God, I don't want to humiliate anybody. And for whatever reason, I've always been able to empathize with those that are on the outside.
Yeah.
Maybe not so much, but I certainly can. And so I'd be the first one to protect them. But having said that, these lunatics on the side, I'm allowed to think that Caitlyn Jenner, who I knew as Bruce Jenner for 65 of his years, my whole life, I'm allowed to be disturbed by that, be confused by that, be surprised by that, even be kind of like put off by it, because everybody is celebrating it like she's so beautiful and isn't it amazing and she's an incredible woman. Don't cram your new acceptance down my throat. Give me a minute. I get to fucking pause and go, holy fucking shit. And it doesn't make me a bigot. It doesn't make me a bad person. And it doesn't mean I don't want him or her to be who they really are.
You know what
they're pointing their guns at the wrong people.
I agree. And you know what my thing is? And this brings myself to you. Keep looking at that bullet. You're welcome to something.
I can't drink spirits. Isn't that fun?
I love them.
I just like the way it looks. I like those old bottles.
Oh, anyway. Look, the old phonograph. My life.
Yeah, I like everything you got here. So keep giving.
So here's my thing. Like, I was all for her making the change, and good for her. And if you looked at her over the years, you're like, oh, it's coming. Like, I don't know, right? What I hated was, look, don't stop telling me how beautiful she is. You know what she looks like? Any 65-year-old dude who puts on a dress.
Sure.
That's what they look like. But listen, that was the thing. Someone said, isn't she beautiful? And I was like, I'm happy for her. I'm super glad that she's living the life she wants to live. Let's slow down with beautiful.
Yeah, she's not.
She's not beautiful.
And I'm allowed to say that.
I'm certainly, if you want to be, listen, if you're now.
Beautiful? What are you talking about?
No.
You're lying to yourself.
No.
And to me.
Of course she's
Don't
not
say
beautiful.
she's beautiful. You're lying. You're all lying.
No, she's not beautiful.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, like that kind of stuff.
I mean, they did a good job with all the plastic surgery. I think it was 12 hours of surgery. I don't know what it was, but I mean, they did a good job. She's looking good, but
better.
Yeah.
I mean,
the hormones, whatever it is, it's fine, but it's not my type.
No. You ever curious though what one of those man-made vaginas feels like?
I know somebody who fucked one recently.
And recently?
Yeah, and then
wasn't
even sure afterwards, but is now like I think I fucked a tranny. He goes, bro, I think I fucked a tranny. I know tranny is like
not supposed
the
to be
wrong thing to say,
right.
But that's what he said.
What did he say? What was the?
I said I think that you did it on purpose, and that's okay. And I still do. I don't care.
We've had this discussion before. I've had it with my brothers where about ladyboys in Thailand, and I'm like, look, here at the end of the day, smooth face.
Yeah,
you're not seeing a penis.
Dude, I was in Thailand.
Blowjob is a blowjob.
When I was doing Hangover 2, I was in Thailand, and I was with some of the cast, and I'm telling you, those ladyboys. If you had sex with one of those ladyboys, you're not gay. That is, they're as hot as anybody I've ever seen.
Well, you know what?
It's a fact.
Did you read about the article? Because I'm not homophobic in the least. Did you read about the article about the guy who was having a threesome with his buddy? I got to bring it up. The quote is hilarious. Having a threesome with his buddy, but they touched balls, so he killed his friend.
What?
So the quote from the article, Brian. The quote from the article
killed his friend.
He had to murder him. This is the quote from the article.
Oh, fucking God.
We were going
Jesus
out.
Christ.
We were switching from ass to mouth, from butt to mouth, and he went left when he was supposed to go right. And next thing I know, we ball to ball. So he. We ball to ball.
This is a homicidal maniac who is looking for any excuse to kill a human being.
First of all,
that's what he is.
I've never been a fan of like the two guys and one girl because I'm assuming I'm having sex and that the other guy is a buddy of mine.
Yeah.
And I'd start to laugh.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like for me, it all of a sudden turns into a funny situation.
Well, you see your buddy dead serious, just going to town,
and I'd want to start doing bits.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. It gets. Oh, all right, here we go. Yeah.
But so touch ball to ball. And that's next thing I know, we ball to ball. I mean,
and he killed the guy.
He killed him. He murdered him.
He shot him, or
he's happy to discuss it. He's and listen to him, justified.
He's in jail now.
Yo, yeah,
Black fella.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know how I put that together because you were like, we balled a ball. But this is a homicidal maniac who needed any excuse.
I mean,
and he brushed scrotums and decided he had to kill him. So this is a guy who was looking to kill this guy.
If you balled a ball with your buddy of yours, you're not killing him.
No, I'm not.
No, it's a good story. It's a funny thing. The next time the two of you are at a party, you're like, you want to tell him the nut story?
I mean, this guy couldn't be dumber.
It's pretty amazing. Yeah. But here's where we go back. I got off track a little bit about the mob and the Twitter mob. Okay, recently something happened to me. I want to know your opinion. Have you read an article? There's an article out there about how, on Twitter when women say, and by the way, I understand that social media is harder for women than it is for men. I don't think there's any doubt. I get a lot of advances on Twitter in autograph lines. Women squeeze my ass, or they say I'm going to squeeze your ass. And people always say to me, well, why don't you say it's the same for you as it is for women? It isn't, because I don't fear what's happening to me. There's no...
They can't rape you.
There's no chance.
They're not bigger, stronger. They're not going to... Yeah.
So that's why I think it's completely different.
Of course,
and
it's
for
different.
anyone to say that it's the same for men and women online
dummies.
Is dummies.
You're a dummy.
You're a dummy. So it's not the same. Yeah. However, there was an article about why when men reply to tweets about, well, not all men, that it's dangerous. And I just don't understand how. Like, as a man who isn't one of those predators, and I would consider myself a feminist. If you looked at the definition of feminism.
Yeah, I am too.
Right?
I mean, I just believe in fair play and meritocracy. I don't know if I can...
Across the fucking
women,
board.
Men and women are very different, but I'm not going to keep a woman down because she's like fucking dumb.
No.
This is dumb. I'm not
dumb.
A fucking idiot.
Okay. So there's an article about how when men respond, not all men. And I don't know why. Like, look, I'm not going to stand up for... Look, white guys have had it good in this country for a long time and still continue to. If you're born a white dude, you got a leg up.
Yeah, I always say I was born on third and told to run home. I'm a white American male in 2015 who gets paid to make people laugh.
Yeah.
Pick up a newspaper.
Pretty good.
I won the historical lottery.
You're doing pretty well. Yeah. And plus, you got a great body.
And a great face. And a dick on me. Keep going.
Okay. But so I got scared to reply to a friend of mine because I was like, oh, the Twitter mob was going to come. But do you think it's different? Because if I sent out a tweet that said black guys or Mexicans or women, I'd get a shit ton of things to say, not all black, not all Mexican, not all women. Why is it different for me to come back and say not all men? I was like, what is it about me? Am I missing out on why this is bad?
I wouldn't even enter
the fray?
I wouldn't even enter the fray because it doesn't matter. But I mean, you're talking about fair play now, and you're talking about hypocrisy. And I think that, first of all, the people that would respond or get engaged in that they're just not that relevant.
Right.
And frankly, I don't think they're very intelligent. And frankly, I think that they're cowards. I think that these people that are standing up for every little infraction are a bit cowardly. They don't care really about equality. They care about power. They have a chip on their shoulder, and they're way more interested in scrapping and doing it in a cowardly manner. They're not really.
This does allow you to have power, but be a coward. I'm touching my computer, by the way.
You hide behind it. You're in a student group. Yeah. You write a letter. You organize a whole, a movement against, something or other. I mean, I think there are movements that matter. I think if I was black and I had experiences, see, black men probably have a very different experience with cops than 100%. I do. And I'm never going to say I know what it's like to be a black guy. There's fucking no way. And I'm sure I would be frustrated, and I'm sure I would have a very different point of view on Black Lives Matter, for example, or whatever. So I stay way out of that stuff, man. Yeah. I don't like getting involved in stuff I don't understand. I don't understand what it's like to be a black man, but I do know it's a lot tougher generally, and I don't care what anybody says. And look at the history of this country. It's a lot harder, and 100%. Has been a lot harder and more humiliating and 1,000 other things than it is to be white. And anybody who says otherwise should pick up a fucking history book. So I stay out of that, man. If anything, I will. I'll tell you something. I laugh at this, but I secretly root for black people, and I'm not. It's not because I'm a liberal, and not because I like black people more. I just believe in fair play, and if you read this history, it's been so hard to be black. It just has, and I just like when they win. I do. I fucking like when they win. And I'm not a liberal, man. I'm not some left-wing liberal. I just like when they win. I just like seeing like a young black guy who's kicking ass and setting a good example, and he's got money, and he's talented. Like there are a lot of people like that you just go, fuck, man.
You're somewhere where I would hope, and I feel like I am the same way, where our group would get a little louder. Like you are a hunter, yes?
Yeah.
Okay. So you, in a lot of ways,
not a hunter, but I hunt.
But you hunt, right? But you own a gun?
Yeah, 2 guns.
And so in a lot of ways, right? So my liberal friends think I'm Republican, and my conservative friends think I'm Democrat.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Where is that?
Libertarian.
Right. So why can't we be louder and stronger?
We've already won, partially.
Where do you
just because they, as again white males.
Yeah.
The system is already bucked in our favor. So, I guess I could stand up and go, and another thing about being me. And
then you're like, actually, I got it pretty good. I'm going to stay quiet.
We're pretty well represented. If you look at the candidates in this field, we're pretty well represented. So in a sense, we've won and have been winning for a long time.
Yeah.
There's not a whole lot to buck against. If anything, again, it's like guys like you and I will root for the people that don't have a voice, and we secretly like when we see a black guy doing well. Like I do. I just like seeing.
Me too.
I love when I see like a black doctor. I was down in Atlanta, and I see just these black professionals, cigars in their mouths with fucking suits, and they got money, and they roll up in a Benz, and they're doctors, they're psychiatrists, they're fucking lawyers. I love that shit. It makes me feel good about the world.
Buckhead.
I'm just talking about justice. I'm like, because there's nothing more tragic than wasted potential.
Yeah.
The drug war has decimated a lot of the black community.
Well, I think also for me, listen, the one thing that scares me about watching all these debates is that the thing to me that's the most important, they don't talk about enough: education. Like, I don't understand how we can have all these debates.
Culture.
But you get back to education, man. Yeah. Education at the root of it.
Education has to be held in high regard by your culture.
Agreed.
And there are cultures in this country that don't hold education to a premium.
It's
nobody wants to talk about that.
But it's the most important thing.
Yeah.
All right. I do want to talk about you for a little bit.
Yeah.
I know you don't seem
not that important, but
yeah. But who you are, like, you seem to have a thirst for knowledge, yes?
Yeah.
Where do you think that comes from?
My father, and also growing up all over the world until I was 14, and realizing that I was privileged in places like India, in Yemen, in Saudi Arabia.
Tell people why you traveled around.
My father was a banker. Mm-hmm. And seeing and being behind in a car, a chauffeur-driven car, and watching children who are my age come to your window starving and begging in Africa, like in Kenya. When I gave these people my box lunch and they ripped it apart trying to get to it, they were so hungry. I remember that very well.
How old were you?
I was from the age of 0 to 14, and I came to boarding school. But I was always safe. I was American. Mm-hmm. I had plenty to eat. I was clean. I had parents that loved me. And I, at a very early age, asked, why am I so lucky? What is it about these countries that doesn't work? And that stuff is answered. Those questions, by the way, are answered in 2 good books that have different points of view. Guns, Germs, and Steel by, I think they're both Pulitzer Prize-winning books, but one is Guns, Germs, and Steel by Jared Diamond, must-reading for everybody listening to this, and Why Nations Fail by Darren Asimoglu and another professor from Harvard. Great books, and take a diametrically different point of view on why that happens. But mainly, I believe, I'll tell you what it is. I always felt like I owed it to the people who suffer to at least
you
know,
were given the opportunity
to know why. And the reason I want to know why is, I guess I want to load up on, I want the ammunition to fight people that want to make the situation worse, and I want to know how to make it better. I believe, this is going to sound like I'm padding my part, and I don't mean to do this, but I think that my thirst for knowledge comes from my compassion. I care about the world, and I want the world and the problems in the world to be fixed. And I don't know how to do it. There's nothing more frustrating to me.
Right.
But at least I can suffer a little. At least I can lose some sleep about what happens to people in Goma in the Congo. Or at least I have an idea of what the political situation is in Nigeria. And I can have a conversation with a cab driver and say, hey, listen, you matter. I care. I don't know. I don't know what else to do.
When you gather this knowledge, when you gather this information, you keep it for you?
I don't know. I talk about it a little bit. It's frustrating. I can't find enough avenues. And frankly, I don't think I am articulate enough.
Well, you're very articulate.
I don't know if I know enough to necessarily make enough of a difference, but at least I can say, hey, everybody, it may not seem like your problem, but, I will tell you that I doubt ISIS would have come about without our brilliant decision to invade Iraq.
There's no doubt.
And you had people like George W. and his neocon friends like Richard Pearl and Paul Wolfowitz and William Crystal and all these guys. I know the people, that were the architects of this, at least the intellectual, that created the intellectual scaffolding for this. And they, in my opinion, didn't understand the history of the Middle East well enough. But their hubris in believing they could restructure the Middle East is what led to this mess. And I don't know how many countless lives lost. I don't know if history will prove me right or wrong, but I think it's important to know that stuff so that we don't make the same mistake.
Agreed. Do you feel like, and this is one of the things that I was kind of getting at earlier, my Who Am I on stage is silly and kind of dumb, and because anytime as a comedian you have a point of view, people are like, it's almost like they don't want to hear that from their comedians.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Look,
like they don't want to hear that from us. It's like they're compartmentalizing who they're allowed to hear certain information from.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. For me, I'm pretty funny. Okay, I don't care what anybody says. I'm pretty good at comedy.
Yeah,
and they come to my show and pay lots of money and get a babysitter and everything else, and they want to laugh hard for an hour and 10 minutes. I give them that.
I get it. You do more than an hour. I get it.
Thank you. For an hour.
You want to
and they want to laugh. They want to laugh for an hour and 44 minutes. I'm going to give them the hour and 44. If they want 2 hours, I got that too. The bottom line is I got a big bag of tricks. I got a lot of comedy gold in my quiver. The point you need to understand is that they don't want to be lectured on fucking why nations fail and why Guns, Germs, and Steel is an important book. But I can at least my humanity, I think, and how much I care about people. You know what I love about comedy? It brings everybody together.
I agree with that.
They all laugh.
You know what? People ask me what they think the hardest part of stand-up is. And I would tell you the hardest part isn't now when the people who are in that room came to see you. Mm-hmm. The hardest part is when you're in a room full of people who maybe the room's been papered. And so you got 400 people in there who aren't there to see you. Yeah. They have different likes and dislikes. And you're going to get they've had different days. They've had different experiences. Some are in bad moods. Some are in good moods. Yeah. They come from different backgrounds. And you get 400 people who don't know each other to laugh at the same thing. Yeah. Right? Yeah. To me.
Those are those universal questions.
Yes. Yeah. Those are the big, to me, that was harder. It's easier now. I always feel like you have the audiences that are there to see you, you have 10 or 15 minutes to be bad up front. Yeah. They will forgive you that.
I don't know what that's like. I don't do bad material, but I know what you're saying.
Let me ask you something. You know what has been amazing to me is that, look, you've always had a certain energy around you. You still have the energy, but you seem way calmer now.
I'm 48. It's just, I think it's just being older.
Do you feel calmer?
No. I'm more afraid now. I get more afraid and more, I get so negative about, like, I hear these things like these cartels and what they do to people in Mexico and stuff. And I just, when there's so many problems that I feel like I have no power to fix or solve, and it drives me crazy.
But why don't you, and this is what I have really tried to do. By the way, one of the reasons that I do this podcast is because I'm at a strange crossroads where I've never felt more confident with who I am and lost at the same time. Does that make sense?
Not a bad thing. I think, remember what Socrates said, right? Socrates said that many people consider the wisest man of all. And he said at the end of his life, essentially, I am the wisest of all men because I essentially know that I know nothing. This is a guy who had all the answers and would prove it with math. I mean, if you read the symposium and the dialogues, and he was a guy who, at the end of the day, said, really, I don't know anything. Wow.
By the way, I know I told you guys I knew everything.
Yeah.
Turns out I don't know anything.
Maybe he was being falsely modest because I think he did know everything.
Maybe he was just trying to fuck with people. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? Like, there's this dude who everybody thinks is the smartest guy in the world, and the last thing he says before he dies is, "I was just kidding."
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Well, when he was dying, his disciples were all crying, and he was going to die, and he said, "Have I taught you guys nothing? You're mourning the physical machine that harbors my soul. My soul is going on, but what are you crying about? This is just shitty machinery." It's kind of a cool way to.
I won't be that brave.
No. Well, no. I mean, yeah. Socrates was the bulldozer. Socrates was if you read him, he was so. As you read him as a young man and any man, you realize, oh my God, the responsibility of being a real human being never goes away. I don't care if it was 3,500 years ago or now. In terms of the fact that he essentially. Would show you, me and you, immediately. We live on a house of glass. We're just living in a house of cards. We have no foundation for how we live. We're just going by instinct, feel, what we were told, and we don't really question things. And he would say, well, why are you doing this? But having said that, you and I and many of us probably listening are direct beneficiaries of the thinking both he, Plato, and Aristotle did.
Yeah.
When you read a lot of it now, you go, yeah, that's how I feel. Well, that's because our system of government and our vocabulary and everything is based on a lot of that.
What's interesting is that, did you read Going Clear?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I took away from that? Was, and that they didn't show in the documentary, was that if you took the religion out of it before he got greedy, and just if he had come out as the first Tony Robbins, as the first self-help guy, a lot of that shit makes sense.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I was reading a lot of it like, that makes sense to me. That makes complete sense. It's when he went to the religion and he got a little greedy with his money. Yeah. That's when the kind of the loopier alien volcano shit came up. But his principles. Yeah. I have to tell you,
I think he probably went crazy. He lost his mind in the end, from the book.
Syphilis.
Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Okay. So he seemed like he was crazy anyway, and then you had David Miscavige, who I've never met him. I don't know anything about him, but according to the book, seems like he seems like a real sociopath.
If he walked out right now.
Yeah. Well, I'd be, we'd have to fight.
He's 5'4". We got him.
Yeah, he's tough though. He's very strong. But it's not a very flattering portrait of David Miscavige. That guy's
book.
No,
he seems like a sociopath.
Yes, yeah. But having said that, making fun of Scientology has never been my thing because, like you said, I'm sure and I know plenty of Scientologists because I went to acting class with them. My acting class was featured in the book. I spent 10 years in that acting class with Milton Gonzalez. But if you're going to make fun of Scientology, you got to make fun of all the other religions too. And a lot more bloodshed has been committed by the other religions and in the name of those other religions than in Scientology. So I think we should all be a little careful.
Yes, I think what baffles me is that I know, as you do, many smart people, and then some of those things where I'm like, how do you believe that? Like, that's where it's not. Look, you can believe what you want to believe. Yeah. But some of the people. The Mormons, after Scientology came along, were like, phew. Yeah. Whew, that snake doesn't seem so weird anymore, does it? Yeah, this underwear, that seems all right.
But, so much of religion is not even about the faith. It's metaphor. And I think a lot of Scientologists and Muslims and Jews and Christians, they identify as these religions because there are two ways to define, and I'm gonna quote Reza Aslan here loosely.
Just Google it.
Yeah, it's not, there are two ways. When you say you're a Muslim or you say you're a Christian, there are practices and beliefs that define you. But then there's another way to define it, which is just that you identify with a cultural sort of glue that a lot of your people have come up in. It's a tradition. There are churches that maybe you go once a year. You celebrate Christmas. Does it make you a diehard, literalist when it comes to the Bible, a Christian? No. And I promise you, most Muslims are the same way. I know from living in that part of the world.
By the way, most religions, most people,
yeah.
What I've always said, the beautiful thing about religion is it gives people a sense of belonging.
and the sense of inspiration
and
to do
community.
good things.
Yeah, like so when anything gets hijacked by extremism, you're in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
You don't do any of this stuff in your stand-up. How has your stand-up changed as you've gotten older?
About my kids.
Are you talking about your kids?
Wife. The struggles.
And so it's it's almost opposite for me. I don't, because my kids are older, for a long time, all my set was all about kids.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting for me to have almost attacked life in an opposite way than most people that I know in this town. Mm-hmm. I don't know. It actually, look, I've always said that the hardest things in your life when you're going through them are terrible. Looking back, they shape you into who you are.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So living in one bedroom with 3 kids on $1,000 a month at the time was terrible.
It's amazing.
Looking back, it really was the best thing that has happened to me. Can you think of a time like that for you that was really mentally, for whatever reason?
Yeah, I was temping. I was temping at 26 years old or whatever at Goldman Sachs. And I was running coffee and making copies, and I wanted to be an actor. And I would be in a suit and tie, and I'd be in the summertime on a subway as I was looking at the sweat gathering on my arm. And I was a rolled-up sleeve, and I was on the subway, and I had been there. It was 8 o'clock at night, and I had to be there late doing some bullshit. Mm-hmm. And I thought to myself, I don't think I'm ever going to be a success. I think I've failed. I think I went to acting school, and now I'm trying to get jobs. I think I had tried to get, and I called my agent and said, hey, I hear they're looking for Robin in the new Batman movie. And my agent said, yeah, that's going to Mark Wahlberg or to Chris McDonald, whatever it was. And I was like, oh, okay, cool, thanks, man. Like he was just like, yeah, hey, shithead. It's not going to you for 1,000 reasons. And then
Listen,
I
remember the first 2,000 people bow out, you're in.
I remember looking at myself in the mirror, and then I saw myself on camera. I was like, I don't look good at all. I mean, it was just I was doomed to fail. So stand-up was what kind of changed everything, got me Mad TV and all that. But, I've had plenty of those. I've had plenty of downtime. I've had plenty of moments where I feel like I still feel like I've failed.
But you in the common theme with a lot of people on my podcast is what I respect about you is that you are in constant hustle mode.
Yeah.
Constant hustle mode.
Yeah, it's what I do.
Yes, you are in constant. So for me, like, what is it? Is it the same drive that your thirst for knowledge? Is it the same reason, or what is it that drives you?
No, see, when you say hustle mode, for me, I love the process of discovery. I think writing, for example, I'm at a standstill right now, and I know I'm going to have a day if I keep showing up where something's going to show itself to me.
Explain to me showing up. Like
I've quoted this and a million times, but I'll say it 1,000,001. I'll give you a couple examples. Flannery O'Connor and Stephen Pressfield in his book, The War of Art, or The War for Art. And Going Pro, I think, is another book. I read both his books, but Flannery O'Connor, the great writer who died of MS at 39, a woman in the 30s, and she said, "I sit at my typewriter every morning at 5:30, not to write, but in case something happens." It's always an act of faith, and just keep showing up, man. Keep showing up. I've talked to Fiona Apple. I've talked to Bruce Springsteen about this, where I said, "How do you write songs?" And they're like, you start with a metaphor. And you keep showing up, and it kind of reveals itself to you. The idea being that the song already exists. It's just up to you to keep showing up.
Have you ever been to
those expressions.
You ever been to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
No.
Okay, so at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame,
where is it?
It's in Cleveland.
I have, yeah.
So they have.
Yeah, I say that because I knew I had been. I was like,
you were like, what comedy club?
I did stand up in Cleveland.
Hilarities.
I think I went there.
Yep.
Yes, that's why I was like, no. Then I was like, yeah, I did because I had nothing to do and I went there.
What's funny is people say, have you ever been to this city? I'm like, what comedy club's there? And they'll tell me, I go, yeah, I've been there.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
But I went to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and I was with my son, and we were looking at these handwritten notes of Beatles lyrics, Springsteen lyrics, Stones lyrics, and I started to tear up. And he was like, why? Basically, he said, what the fuck is wrong with you? Get it together.
Yeah.
But he said, why is that affecting you like that? I said, it's amazing to me that John Lennon's process was the
like
same
yours.
as mine.
Yeah.
Was the same as mine.
I know.
So
so what's the difference? Effort? hours.
I don't. Yeah, I mean,
I don't know.
Are you saying I'm not John Lennon?
I've always considered you the John Lennon of comedy.
Good.
You know.
Yeah, but that was
To my Paul McCartney.
What? Oh, yeah. Maybe I am a little darker.
Yeah.
I was so inspired by that to know that the process has never changed.
No.
It's a dude in his room, maybe with a joint or water or whatever.
Every comic I talk to, Jeff Ross or Bill Burr, and the process doesn't get easier.
I will tell you something, by the way, about Burr, and this is something I've been wrestling with, and I don't know if you've ever wrestled with this before. It has taken me a while. I know what I do well on stage. I also kind of know what I wish I did well. Does that make sense? So I look at Burr and Louis C.K. and Rogan, the way they attack a joke, and they can take a premise.
That's who they are, though.
Yes.
That's not who you are.
No, but it's taken me a little while to go, look, you see that guitar?
Yeah.
One of the reasons that I pushed out of bringing a guitar, and I bring it on stage for the middle of my act now. You know why? It's fun. I enjoy it.
Yeah.
But it took me so long to have the balls to go get one and do it, because what is my instinct that other comics are going to say? You fucking playing guitar, bro?
Yeah, not me. I'll punch him in the face.
But you know what I mean?
Like I'm not intimidated by any comics like that. That's my problem. Is that like Louis C.K., Bill Burr. I like Bill very much, but I don't. I'm not intimidated by any of those guys because I do my own thing. I never think of it as a competition.
No, me neither.
And also though.
But when did you settle into your "Who am I" on stage?
I don't know. I never. I mean, maybe I have. Maybe
you
not.
fucking
But
have one for sure.
as a guy, I'm always like, I just try to be as original as I can, and I only write what I think is funny.
Yep.
And I do well. You know, people seem to like me. But, you know, nobody's going to tell me or intimidate me, especially a comic, because, you know, I'll punch you in the face.
Tell me.
I mean, I'm being a little bit macho now.
but you've taken your shirt off, so this is the craziest part.
And my pants. And so, you know, I'm naked. I don't know.
Can you think of for you the last time you wrote a joke in your house, you were like, this is going to fucking kill. And you get on stage and you're like, just crickets. That happened to me recently where I told this big, long story that I was like, oh, this ending, because it was real and it was a natural callback.
Yeah.
It was going to be, I was going to have to drop the mic and just dab my head with a towel and take a sip while people were clapping and laughing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
In my head. So
you might have been aiming, though.
I think I was.
Yeah.
As I got to the end, I was like, oh, this is going to be huge.
Yeah.
And I said it, and it was like, click. I was like, oh,
yeah.
Fucking the jokes leading up to in the story huge. The ending that I thought was going to be like you should be on HBO right now.
Yeah,
that did not happen.
Yeah, for me, I do things like I've been doing things. Some of the things that kind of scare me because I'm not sure how they're going to come on. And when I do something that scares me, it usually has the reaction I'm looking for. I'm afraid of it, but I commit to it. And you
think you commit more when you're scared?
I don't know. Maybe.
I think I do. When I'm not sure of something.
I like doing things I'm afraid of anyway. Like that's why I box and I try to spar. I hate sparring because it's not like wrestling and jiu-jitsu. That's way easy to roll. Boxing with like guys who can hit, you get hit in the head and it really hurts, and I'm not good enough to not get hit in the head, and I'm not good enough to do much. So when I do it with guys who are, and you spar usually with a pro or something, dude, they can touch you and it hurts. And
it's a
I
different
dread
level,
it.
isn't it?
Yeah, dude, yeah.
Like the guy who thinks he's a good street fighter, if he fights a boxer,
he's going to sleep.
How many punches? 2?
Those guys can set you up. They can do.
What's their precision like with a punch? Do you know what I mean?
They can break your jaw. The first thing I say to Chris Van Eerden or any of this, or Wayne McCullough when I would box with them is, these are world champions. I'd say, dude, just don't break my nose, don't break my jaw, please. And don't fucking drop me with a body shot. They can do anything they want.
Right.
So really, they move around with you and you get to throw shots. And they'll slip punches and you can't even hit them. And so, and if they wanted to open up, even a good amateur, I'm talking about a 17-year-old amateur, then it's a different game, man. You know, it's like
why
have
you
you
so
ever
fascinated?
have you ever wrestled?
Or
have you done any jiu-jitsu? So
I've done Krav Maga.
Yeah, but I promise you, if you and I were on a mat, I'd do whatever I want to you, just because you've never done it. It's no big deal, but I would. It doesn't mean I'm stronger or tougher. Exactly. But you would just not know what to do so much, and I would be able to. And I'm not, I was a wrestler, but it doesn't mean I wasn't a great fighter or anything like that. But when you deal with a boxer who's been doing it their whole life, they see everything you're doing before you do it. So they can chunk information. So, oh, look, here comes his left, and he's going to do a double jab. Well, I'll just slip that and just put a shot on the like the top of his jaw, and they just touch you, or maybe they just hit you in the side of the head, and you have headgear.
Wear a headgear?
Yeah, I wear headgear. I wear a fucking bar. I'm a fucking idiot. I have no business doing this. But it scares me, and when I'm done, it opens up a bunch of other channels.
How old is your son?
4.
Would you, if he wanted to, he was like, I want to be a boxer, would you let him be a boxer?
No. He'll definitely learn.
Would you, if he said, I wanted to be a boxer, would you let him be a boxer?
Yeah, I mean, probably.
Even after talking to Tony Jeffries?
Yeah, no, I would let him, because I don't think my son looks like he's going to be athletic, but we're talking about a different. I don't think my kids are going to make their living as athletes.
You going to let him play football?
We don't have that genetics. I don't want to let him play football. It makes me scared because I don't think, as we know more and more about concussions and things, and I've talked to pro football players who won't let their kids play.
Yeah,
I don't like it. It scares me. The game. I love the game, but I don't want my son bashing heads.
It's an interesting thing.
I'll let him wrestle and do jiu-jitsu all day long.
What do you think those? Because when I was taking Krav Maga, my brain worked in a different way. What do you think those skills teach a kid or a person?
Same thing as learning any new language. That's why the guitar is great. The drums are great. Anything that requires you to think in a different way, I think, and keeps you out of your comfort zone is just going to.
What does that do? Because I tell people all the time.
I'm a huge believer in it.
Me too. And what do you think it does for people to work outside of their comfort zone?
I think it breaks down the mystery of life. I think it breaks down sort of like, oh, God, it's not for me. I can't do that. Everything's a language. It depends on how fluent you are in that language. Mm-hmm. Jiu-jitsu's a language. Boxing's a language. Guitar's a language. And I think it's very, very good to do things you're not good at because it keeps you. I think it probably opens up new neural pathways.
Yep.
I think it keeps you your skin thinner and you feel life more.
People ask me all the time what the best thing about stand-up is, and I say, for me, at this point, it's a great combination of having a parachute, but not knowing if it's going to work.
Well, think about the people you admire. The people you admire stayed uncomfortable. The people you admire did things they were afraid of. The people that you admire did what was considered impossible.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when Roger Bannister broke the 4-minute mile, or there are 1,000 examples, but
that dude who has 2 dicks that are both 8 inches?
I didn't know about that guy.
What?
He has 2 dicks? Come on.
2 dicks, both over 8 inches.
Let me see.
Have you not seen the double dick dude?
No. What are you talking about?
Is this not true? You've never seen the double dick dude?
No, but
I don't think it's like the Doublemint twins.
He's got 2 dicks?
He's got 2 dicks. Guy with 2 dicks.
I got to see this.
I can't believe this is just coming up now. You really need to get on my email chain because this was a year ago.
I won't. I think you sent me an email of somebody defecating on someone else's face. And I was like, well, Josh, that sounds great. After all this deep talk.
I am the guy with 2 penises. Do you want to see pictures or you just want to talk to him?
Yeah, I want to see pictures, of course.
Okay. Is there a safety thing on? There must be a safety thing on. Wow. Hold on. Sorry. Let me go back. I don't know why there'd be safety thing on I am the guy with 2 penises. My proof. Here we go. There you go. Dude with 2 dicks.
He really does have 2 dicks.
Yeah. He says that one is gay and one is straight, he says.
That's incredible that he actually has.
And not like 2 tiny dicks. That's like a dick.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Yeah, but it's not terrible to have 2 of them.
I got the same dick. I'm not worried. But I wonder what happens in that situation.
Well, he says he's had sex with 2 people at once.
That's incredible.
Right? He said he's had sex with a man and a woman at the same time.
Well, all right.
I mean, did you want to look at the picture any longer, or are we good?
No, we're good. But it's just congratulations for not being circumcised. He's got the whole thing going.
I know. It's really an interesting, like, if you just showed me a picture of that and I glanced at it,
yeah,
I would be like, I don't know.
I mean, that really is. I wonder why he didn't have one removed.
Would you?
Yeah, I think so.
Would you have it removed and added on?
Well, you know, they can transplant penises now.
I heard that.
So I would donate one to charity.
Would you pick your donor?
No, I mean a lot of soldiers. It's devastating, but with these IEDs, they lose their, they lose their situation.
my oldest son was in Afghanistan.
Yeah, well, he was in the army. Yeah. I don't know how you dealt with it. I would have flipped out every fucking day.
Let me tell you what it is, because think about your boy, right? So when your boy came into the world, automatically your first job in your brain was, well, I'm keeping him safe.
Yeah.
That's your instinct.
Yeah.
For me to have him go and not be able to have any control whether he was safe or not
Fuck.
and not only that,
It's beyond.
and we're going to try to do this without crying, but when you Skype with him and where he is,
Yeah.
and you're not allowed, and everybody I know who went over there said, do not show fear, do not show that you're nervous, you've got to be happy. He's got to click on that screen.
Well, because he's got to show you he's okay.
He's got enough to worry about
Yeah.
without him worrying about you being worried.
Yeah.
And when you go a day and you don't hear, or 2 days, you don't hear from him,
How long was he over there?
he was over there for 9 months, but
it's just too long.
It changes
and
you.
I think about the parents and the brothers and who deal with guys who come back and girls who come back with no arms or who are just never the same. And that's why if you're going to go to war, you better do it for the right reason. And I don't get into that, but it's 70,000. I think we have 70,000 veterans who are 70% or more disabled, and that's an unacceptable number.
Especially, what happens with the VA now.
I don't. Not enough.
Okay. Well, listen. The service and the medical attention that the vets are getting is just not up to par. And what is baffling is that we spend so much time training these soldiers. We put so much time and energy into making sure that when they get over there, they're prepared.
What they do, yeah.
But we don't put the same amount of time and energy to make sure when they come back, they're just as taken care of.
Right.
And it's like,
I think it's been that way for a long time. I mean, I think it's always been. I think you'd find veterans of every war with a similar gripe. I don't want to use the word gripe because it's more than that. It's a legit, complaint. And man. Again, you're talking about shit that makes me crazy because I can't control it. I can't fix it.
But that's why. Is that one of the reasons you think you work out as hard as you do? Are you because it's a control thing, something you can't control?
Oh, I just work out because I like the way it makes me feel. I mean, I work out because I don't want to die ever. I work out because I can.
Yeah.
I love Ido Portal. I don't know if you know him. He's this Israeli movement specialist. Move because you can. What are your movement patterns? He's great. But I love. I like to move. I'm very kinetic. I can't sit still.
Do you?
A lot of energy.
Do you? When you say that you want to live forever, I know you said that jokingly, but is that a concern? Do you wake up every morning? Is that a concern of yours that you're getting older? In this town?
Yes, I
Me
suppose.
Too.
I mean, that's so human. Again, not to bring up Socrates, but what is? How do you define love? And he said, well, you've got to define love of what does man truly love? Immortality. There's no one in the world doesn't want to live forever. That's why your kids are so important to you. That's why your work is so important to you because you're leaving a mark. We all want to be significant. We all want to leave a mark. And if we do it through our progeny, or we do it through our building the Taj Mahal, or painting the Sistine Chapel, whatever it might be, doing a podcast, we all want to be relevant.
Yes. Well, okay. Interesting question for you. How do you want your son to think of you?
Well, it's a goddamn great question, and it's what I'm writing about. It's such a good question.
I can tell you for me, and I've thought about it. For me, it seems really simple.
Mm.
I want them to be proud. This is so simple, of who I am.
Yeah.
It's so simple. I want them to look at me and go, he did this the way
I
it
think
should
they
have
will
been
with
done.
you, and I think they will with me because we made the right choices. We made the big choices. Yeah, I want my son. You know what I want to teach my son? I want to teach my son to laugh at himself, not take himself too seriously. I want to teach him to be self-reliant and resilient.
Resilience is a huge thing.
Yeah, and I'll set an example, and I'll fuck up, and but I want my son to think. The main thing is I want my son to know I love the shit out of him, and my daughter too.
That's thing number one.
Yeah.
How old's your daughter?
7.
Thing number one, and to me the most important thing, is to know they're loved. And then it's up to you. I've said this a million times, and I wrote it in my book. Look, for every good thing you do as a parent, there is an opposite. There's something bad that comes out of that. Mm-hmm. There just is. Mm-hmm. There's no perfect parent. Right. So if you talk about, this parent is so organized and has their kid, well, that kid who's structured their entire life, when they leave the house, that may not be good for them.
Yeah.
Because now they're in fucking free fall.
That's right.
Right.
Well,
so,
that's you can be a lot of wealthy kids are not ready for the real world.
Not ready.
Yeah.
But I will tell you, like, for me, when you teach your kids that they're loved, most important thing. But then, like, you have to decide what's important to you. Like, recently, my son got his first car. And people were like, what'd you buy him? I tell you what I bought him. Nothing. That's not my job to buy him a car. Because if I buy him a car, he doesn't appreciate it. Mm-hmm. He has a 2004 Kia because that's what he could afford.
Yeah.
Right now, a lot of people are like, what an asshole move. You would buy.
It's great.
I just don't. For me.
First of all, fuck him.
Yes!
First of all, my son, when he's fucking,
what was your first car?
18, I got a Honda Civic. And when my son's 18, he's going to fucking get whatever happens to be there. I'm not.
No.
Yeah.
For me, it was like.
I'm already annoyed at him. Yeah, I love him. Fucking
wait till he starts jerking off in the shower.
Oh, that's awesome. Christ.
But
that's the thing about my son. My daughter's a complete mystery. My son, I understand everything. I know that fucking kid.
That's what I said a million times.
I know him. We have the same interests. I haven't grown at all. Since I was 4, he's into round, smooth surfaces, eating and fighting, penetrating, stabbing,
penetrating
shooting.
things, yeah.
All right, same thing.
My son, actually, I was in his room. This was before he went out to college, and I was walking to talk to him, and he saw me walk around things. And he goes, what are you doing? I go, I'm not stepping on those socks. And he goes, why not? I go, just in case. Because I was a teenage boy who jerked off in my bed and threw the sock on the floor.
I'm still jerking off.
Right, but you just leave the sock on the floor because you don't, what do you know?
Yeah.
Right? So, but I agree. My daughter, I had the same problems, man, because I don't know her path. All I know is that I know dudes my age.
Yeah.
And I knew what they would try to do, right? So I told her, you can't believe a fucking word anybody at the end of the age of 25 ever says to you.
My daughter, again, she's like 7. She's into the unicorns, twirling, and braids. I don't know. I don't speak that language. But you know what I do? I make her laugh. I crack her up, and I am her playmate, and I'm her protector, and I'll protect her.
That's good shit, dude.
Yeah.
All right. I know you've had a long day, and we've been here for a little while.
Thank you for having me, my friend.
Buddy.
Come see me. Are you gonna when are you airing this?
I will download it tonight. It'll be up tomorrow morning.
Come to the American Comedy Club New Year's in San Diego. I'll be there for a 7 o'clock and a 10 o'clock show.
What a great club that is.
The American Comedy Company.
Yes.
In San Diego.
Now also, your podcast.
The Bryan Callen. No, I'm sorry.
You have your
The
own,
Fighter
don't you?
and the Kid. Not anymore. The Fighter and the Kid, which is with Brendan Schaub.
And it's even for people who are not fight fans, I would tell you tune in. It's
fun.
Well-rounded, fun.
We try to keep it well-rounded and funny.
And then anything else? Any other road things you want to talk about?
That's it. Me in Vancouver. I think we're already almost sold out. But Vancouver, January, something. And we have the tour. We have the Fighter and the Kid tour. Yeah. Tickets are still available in Seattle. Go to tfatk.com. That stands for the Fighter and the Kid.
Yeah.
.com, tfatk.com for tickets. We still have tickets left for Seattle and Portland. Some for San Diego House of Blues, I think January 14th, and some for Las Vegas, January 10th.
Where in Vegas?
Or something. Hard Rock.
I mean, you guys are selling
it's crazy.
Place out months ahead of time.
It's nuts, dude. I am telling you, it's nuts. Yes.
Months ahead of time.
Yeah. We already sold out. The Comedy Store, there's still some tickets left, I think, for February 4th. We've already sold 180 tickets to the Comedy Store.
Fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Guys, I'll just give you what I'm doing in January. January, I'm in Kansas City the first week, Buffalo, then Portland.
With Craig
Oregon.
Glazer?
Yeah. Can I even tell you the
Craig
story?
Glazer.
So I'm in his office, and Greg calls me in, and he goes, "Hey," and I go, "Yeah." And there was a girl sitting at his desk, and I go, "What's going on?" He goes, I just got to know before the weekend. You fuck teenagers?" And I go, "What?"
Fucking Christ.
And he goes, "Do you fuck teenagers?" I go, "No, I don't fuck teenagers." He goes, "You don't fuck teenagers?" I go, "No."
Well, it's illegal. Unless they're...
And he was like, "Okay." And then, like, I was the weirdo.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, "No, dude."
He's a character. Greg is a character.
That book?
And that's a good gig, though. I like Kansas City. I've always had good rooms.
In Buffalo, Helium, and then Portland, Helium, and then Boston, Laugh
I love the
Boston.
Helium. Mark Gross. I love those guys.
And the Laugh Boston Club is amazing.
Fantastic.
And I'll be there. And guys, other good shit coming. Thank you, man. Thank you for being here.
You're the best, brother.
I appreciate
Always.
it.
So happy. 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 So happy.